Hey there, fellow deep divers. Ready to jump into Noah Kagan's $1,000,000 Weekend.
Yeah, we've got some really interesting excerpts from his book.
And this isn't your typical dream big business
No,
advice.
no, not at all.
This is about actionable
Stuff
strategies,
you can use like right away.
this weekend even, to get a profitable business off the ground.
Exactly. And what I think is so interesting about Kagan's approach
Mm-hmm.
is his emphasis on action
Mm-hmm.
over endless planning.
He's all about just doing it.
Yeah, he's all about diving in and learning by doing, which I think is perfect for our listeners.
Totally. Our listeners are all about that fast track to knowledge. They want to learn and apply quickly and efficiently. And you know what else is wild? This is the same guy who was fired from Facebook.
It's true.
But he took that experience and turned it into fuel.
Yeah, that experience seems to have really lit a fire under him.
He built multiple $1,000,000 businesses using the exact techniques we're going to unpack today.
And one of the most compelling concepts he introduces is this thing he calls the NW not how habit.
Okay, now, not how. I like the sound of that already. Break it down for me. What's that all about?
So picture this.
Okay,
Kagan's at Facebook, right?
right.
And he's stuck, waiting 24 hours for email responses before he can even move forward with a task. Just crazy.
Why do I know that feeling? Email lag is the
The
worst.
worst. That's where the NW not how habit clicked for him. It's about overcoming that overthinking paralysis and taking action now.
So instead of getting hung up on finding the perfect way to do something,
You just get it done.
you just do it. I love that. Focus on the now, not the how. Especially for folks who tend to overthink things.
Yeah, for people who get stuck in the planning phase, this is a game changer. It's about taking that leap of faith.
Diving in head first after.
Absolutely. And Kagan takes it a step further. He even issues a challenge, the NW not how challenge.
Ooh, a challenge. I like it.
He wants you to ask someone you respect for a business idea today, like right now.
Yeah. Put it into action. That's a great way to kickstart the process. And speaking of simple but powerful, Kagan also talks about something called the freedom number. What is that?
The freedom number is a really interesting concept. It's about figuring out the minimum you need,
Minimum what?
minimum monthly income,
Hmm.
that you need to feel secure enough to pursue your passions.
So basically, what's the magic number that would give you the financial freedom to do what you love?
That's it. And what makes this so powerful, I think, is that it removes the intimidation factor.
Hmm.
You know, a lot of people think you need millions to even think about starting a business.
Right. It feels overwhelming.
And this makes the goal feel so much more achievable.
I love that. It's all about reframing the entrepreneurial journey. It's not about chasing millions. It's about figuring out what you need to live comfortably and pursue your passion.
Yeah. And it becomes, what can you achieve right now to hit that number?
So it shifts your focus from this big, overwhelming how to what can I earn right now?
Exactly. It's about taking those small steps today that will get you there. And that ties in beautifully with the NLW not how habit.
Absolutely. So we've got this idea of taking action, but Kagan also talks about the importance of what he calls the ask muscle. What's that all about?
The ask muscle. It's interesting because asking is such a fundamental skill, yet so many of us just, shy away from it.
We're afraid to ask for what we want.
Right. And Kagan really believes that getting comfortable with asking is crucial to succeeding in business.
He even tells this really inspiring story about Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx.
Well, yes.
Her story is all about persistence, facing tons of rejections
Endless rejections.
before Spanx became a global phenomenon.
The best part of the story?
What's that?
She cold called Neiman Marcus, kept calling and calling until she finally got someone to agree to stock Spanx.
That is amazing. Talk about a powerful ask. I mean, she wasn't afraid to put herself out there,
Not at all.
and it paid off big time.
And it shows that even the biggest successes, they often come after a lot of rejection. So to help you build that ask muscle, Kagan introduces this challenge, the coffee challenge.
The coffee challenge. Okay, you've piqued my interest. What is this challenge all about?
Okay, so it's pretty simple,
Okay.
but the goal is to actually get rejected. You go to a coffee shop
Mm-hmm.
and you ask for a discount.
Wait a minute. The goal is to get rejected.
Exactly.
Why would I want to do that?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But by putting yourself in those low-stakes situations,
Where you're probably going to be told no.
exactly,
Right.
you start to desensitize yourself to the fear of rejection.
I see. It's like exposure therapy for your ask muscle.
You build up a tolerance.
So you're not so afraid to ask for what you want in other areas of your life. Brilliant.
And we even got a message from a listener, Dieter S.
Oh, yeah, Dieter.
He used the coffee challenge to get more comfortable with asking for sponsorships for his side hustle.
Wow, that's amazing. It actually worked. He took this simple exercise and it helped him achieve real results in his business. Proof that even these small things can have a ripple effect. Okay, so we're starting to see a pattern here. Take action, get comfortable with asking, and don't be afraid of rejection. But Kagan also talks about this thing called the customer-first approach.
Yes, the customer-first approach.
What's that all about?
It's about putting your customers at the heart of everything you do from the very beginning.
Okay, that makes sense. But what does that actually look like in practice?
It's the complete opposite of what Kagan calls the founder-first trap.
The founder-first trap.
You ever fall into that trap?
I might have once or twice. Tell me more about it.
This is when you get so excited about your idea that you jump right into designing logos and building websites.
You're ordering business cards before you even know if anyone wants what you're selling.
Exactly. You're basically building this business in a vacuum, disconnected from the people you're trying to serve.
You're putting the cart before the horse.
100%. And Kagan uses the origin story of AppSumo to illustrate the customer-first approach in action. Instead of spending months developing a product, he went straight to his target market. Redditors. He tested his idea with them before building anything.
That's so smart. He validated the demand first.
And the speed at which he operated is incredible. He built the first version of AppSumo.com in just 48 hours for like $50.
Seriously, that's amazing. You don't need a huge budget to get started. It's all about focusing on those essentials and getting in front of potential customers as quickly as possible.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of finding those million-dollar ideas.
Okay, here's where it gets interesting. Million-dollar ideas. Tell me everything.
Kagan, he keeps it pretty simple. He suggests using Google Trends to gauge market interest and doing some quick math to estimate market size.
I love that. It's a data-driven approach that anyone can use.
Anyone, even if you're not a business whiz.
No fancy spreadsheets or expensive market research reports.
No, just Google Trends and some basic calculations. He even walks through this beard oil example in the book. Really clearly illustrates his approach.
So did the beard oil idea have million-dollar potential?
It did. But he also includes a faux broth idea that totally failed his viability test. It's a good reminder, though. Not every idea is a winner.
Sometimes you got to be willing to abandon an idea if it's not going to work.
You got to cut your losses and move on. And Kagan's really good at that.
Yeah.
And to help assess the financial viability of your idea, he introduces something called the 1-minute business model.
The 1-minute business model. That sounds right up our alley.
Right. It's so simple, but so effective. It's a really streamlined way to understand the financials of your idea. You break down your revenue, cost, and profit to see if the numbers actually make sense.
Like a super fast business plan.
Yeah. Kagan uses the story of his sumo jerky venture to illustrate this. Remember the jerky experiment?
Oh, right. The jerky. From his $1,000 in 24 hours challenge. Didn't his initial plan fail?
It did. His first plan was to sell individual bags of jerky, but the margins were way too small. He would have had to sell a ridiculous amount of jerky to hit his goal.
So what did he do?
He pivoted. He realized he needed to make more per customer. So he switched to a subscription model, recurring monthly subscription for jerky.
Smart move. That way, he's not just making a one-time sale, he's building a relationship with his customers and generating recurring revenue.
Exactly. And it made his $1,000 goal much more realistic.
So it's a great example of being adaptable and being open to changing your business model based on, real-world feedback.
Absolutely. And to really hammer home this idea of testing your ideas before going all in.
Yeah.
Kagan introduces something called the 48-hour money challenge.
Yeah, 48-hour money challenge. There's that speed element again.
Right. Action, speed, and getting real customer feedback quickly.
So how does this challenge work?
It's all about getting paying customers before you invest heavily in anything.
Okay, minimizing risk and making sure there's actual demand. But how do you get paying customers in just 48 hours?
Kagan suggests 3 methods you can use: direct pre-selling, marketplaces, and landing pages.
Okay, let's break those down. Direct pre-selling, what's that about?
Reaching out directly to potential customers.
Email, phone calls, even in person.
Yep. You're pitching your idea, getting valuable feedback.
This is where that ask muscle comes in handy.
Right. Got to be comfortable putting yourself out there.
But it could lead to your first paying customers.
Exactly. What about marketplaces?
Okay, marketplaces. How can you use those to validate your idea?
Places like Etsy, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, even eBay. They're gold mines for testing ideas. You've got access to tons of potential customers.
So you can basically create a listing for your product or service and see if people actually bite.
Yeah. And Kagan tells this story about his assistant, Jamie.
Jamie.
She used Facebook to validate her side hustle idea she just posted, offering her expertise. And boom,
People were throwing money at her.
they were. Paying for one-on-one sessions. It shows you the power of leveraging your network and just putting yourself out there.
I love that. Okay, what about the third validation method? Landing pages.
Landing pages are just standalone web pages.
With one specific objective.
To capture leads or pre-orders, you create a simple page, describe what you're offering.
And include a call to action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You drive traffic to that page.
Through social media, email marketing, and then you track how many people take action.
Exactly. You're basically A/B testing your way to validation.
It's a data-driven approach. I like it.
And Kagan tells this story about Justin. Validated his bone broth business idea.
Bone broth. Interesting.
Yeah. Simple landing page. Small budget for Bing ads.
Bing ads, not Google.
Bing? And it worked. People sent him money through PayPal.
For a product that didn't even exist yet.
It just goes to show you don't need a fancy website or a massive marketing budget.
Just a clear value proposition, a strong call to action.
And if you can snag those initial paying customers within 48 hours.
You've got validation. You've got proof that there's demand.
Exactly. And that's a huge confidence boost.
So once you've validated your idea, what's next?
Well, then you start thinking about growth.
Mm-hmm.
And Kagan provides a really cool framework for building what he calls a growth machine.
Okay, the growth machine. I'm ready. Tell me more.
He starts by acknowledging there's no one-size-fits-all approach to marketing. Different tactics work for different businesses. It's all about experimenting.
Finding what resonates with your audience makes sense. Something that works for a tech startup might not work for a local bakery.
Right. So to navigate this landscape, Kagan provides 5 key questions to guide your marketing planning.
5 key questions. Okay, lay them on me.
1. What is your one goal for this year?
Okay, one goal. Got it.
2. Who is your customer and where can you find them?
All right, target audience, number 3.
3. What's one marketing activity you can really double down on?
Focus your efforts. What's next?
4. How can you delight your first 100 customers?
Create raving fans from the start. Love it. And the 5th question.
If you had to double your business with no money in 30 days,
What would you do? Wow, that's a great question. It really forces you to think outside the box.
and it highlights the most impactful actions you can take for fast growth. And to illustrate this approach, he tells the story of Daniel Bliss, the climbing glasses guy.
Right, Daniel. With the built-in mirrors, how did he grow his business?
Well, they started with a list of potential marketing strategies.
Each with a predicted number of sales.
They focused on the tactics with the highest potential, starting with the channels they thought would be most promising.
So they had their assumptions and they tested them in the real world.
Exactly. And some were spot on, others totally flopped.
Interesting.
Like they thought eBay would be huge.
But it was a dud.
Total dud. Shows that even the most logical assumptions can be wrong. You have to test things.
Be willing to adjust.
And one of the most surprising wins, online wholesalers, became their primary sales channel.
Wow. So they stumbled onto this hidden gold mine by just experimenting. Amazing.
It is. And the key takeaway is to double down on what works and cut what doesn't.
Ruthlessly cut what's not working. I love that. Prioritize, focus, and adapt. And speaking of finding what works, Kagan is a big fan of email marketing.
Huge fan.
He even says email is more valuable than having a big social media following, especially for the long term.
He really believes that.
Okay, that's a bold claim, especially in today's world.
It is.
So why does he think email is so powerful?
For one, you own your email list.
You're not at the mercy of some algorithm. Social media platforms can change their rules whenever they want.
Remember MySpace?
On, poof. But
Yeah.
your email list, that's yours.
It's yours, and you can actually communicate directly with your people. No fighting for attention in a crowded newsfeed.
You're not shouting into the void.
It's a much more intimate way to connect with your audience. Personalized messages.
Building relationships.
And Kagan, he's all about making email fun, engaging, and memorable, not just pushing sales.
It's about storytelling. Remember the story about Neville's boner email?
Oh, yes!
For AppSumo? A little humor goes a long way.
It does. He injected some personality, told a great story, and it was a massive success.
Almost $10,000 in profit in just 24 hours.
Almost 100 times more than their average email.
Just by making it a little more interesting.
That's the power of storytelling. It's not just about pushing products, it's about connecting.
That's a great point. And it completely changed how Kagan approached email marketing.
Oh, yeah. He realized by adding personality and a bit of fun, email can become a real revenue-generating machine.
So it's not about being boring or salesy. It's about being authentic and connecting with your audience on a deeper level.
Exactly. And that's something we can all learn from. And you know one of the coolest things about Kagan's approach?
What's that?
He doesn't just focus on, the business growth side of things.
Oh, interesting.
He actually emphasizes designing your ideal life, too.
Oh, I like that. It's not just about making money.
No, not at all.
It's about creating a life you love.
Exactly. And it's something that I think really resonates with our listeners.
Yeah.
They're not just looking to build a successful business.
They want to build a fulfilling life.
Right. And Kagan, he even talks about his own experience, feeling lost even after AppSumo became this big success.
Well, he felt lost.
Yeah. He was chasing someone else's definition of success, not his own.
It's so easy to fall into that trap. We get caught up in what we should be doing, what other people expect of us.
Totally. We forget to ask ourselves what we actually want, what truly matters to us.
And that's where Kagan's insights are so valuable. He makes us stop and think. What's the point of having $1 million weekend?
If you're miserable the other 6 days of the week.
Right, exactly. So how did Kagan turn things around? Did he end up selling AppSumo and, sailing off into the sunset?
Not quite. But he did find ways to make his work life align with his values. He started being more selective about the products he promoted. He only chose the ones he truly believed in, even if it meant making a bit less money.
So he put his principles first. I respect that.
Yeah, and he prioritized his well-being, too, setting boundaries like no meetings before noon.
Ah, I love that rule.
And he dedicated Fridays to connecting with friends. It's about designing a work life that works for you.
That's so important. We have the power to shape our own lives even when we're running a business. And to help figure out what that ideal week looks like, Kagan introduces a really cool framework called 52 Chances this year.
Oh yeah, 52 chances. It's so simple, but so powerful.
Okay, break it down for me. What's the idea behind it?
It's all about setting those big, ambitious goals for the year,
Okay.
but then breaking them down into smaller steps, things you can actually do, every week.
I see. Bite-sized actions.
Exactly. 52 weeks in a year. 52 chances to move toward your goals.
52 opportunities to make progress. I like it.
And he suggests starting with a dream year list. Just let your imagination run wild.
No limits.
No limits. Brainstorm everything you'd love to do or experience if anything were possible.
So you're basically giving yourself permission to dream big.
Right. No self-doubt, no holding back, just pure possibility.
Okay, I love that. Then what? What do you do with this dream year list?
You pick the goals that are most important to you.
The ones that really light you up.
And then you figure out how to incorporate them into your week.
So it's about making sure your daily actions are aligned with your big dreams.
Exactly. And to help you stay on track, he suggests getting an accountability buddy.
An accountability buddy, like a workout buddy, but for your goals.
Exactly. Somebody you share your goals with, someone who will check in and make sure you're actually taking action.
I can see how that would be helpful. Someone to keep you motivated.
He's been doing weekly accountability calls with his friend Adam for 10 years.
10 years. That's some serious commitment.
Right. It shows you the power of that external support. And speaking of connecting with people,
Yeah.
Kagan also talks about this idea of prefluencers.
Prefluencers, what are those? Like influencers before they hit it big.
Yeah, exactly. It's about finding those rising stars in your field, the up-and-comers.
And connecting with them before they get super famous.
When they're still accessible, you can build relationships, support each other's growth.
So it's like getting in on the ground floor of something special. I like that approach to networking.
And he even gives you a template for an intro email, a way to reach out to these prefluencers.
Ooh, a template. We got to share that with our listeners.
We'll definitely include it in the bonus content for this episode.
Perfect.
But the key is to be genuine, offer value, and be clear about why you're excited to connect.
It's about building authentic relationships, not just trying to get something from people.
Right. And finally, he talks about this technique called coloring your calendar.
Coloring your calendar. Okay, I have to admit, this one sounds a little, childish.
Oh, no, right?
Like I'm back in kindergarten with my crayons.
It's not about crayons, I promise. It's about being more intentional with your time.
Okay, tell me more. I'm intrigued.
You use different colors to represent different types of activities on your calendar.
Like work, personal time, family time.
Yeah, exercise, downtime. You get this clear visual overview of how you're actually spending your time.
I can see how that would be helpful. It would make it so much easier to spot patterns.
Right. Are you prioritizing your goals? Are you overloaded with work? It helps you see the big picture.
And make adjustments if needed. Maybe I'm not scheduling enough downtime.
Or maybe you're spending way more time on meetings than you realized.
So it's about creating that balance, making sure your calendar reflects the life you want to live.
Exactly. And he even suggests scheduling in time for laziness, like actually blocking off time to relax and recharge.
I love that. Permission to be lazy. Sign me up.
It's so important. We all need that downtime.
It's all about bringing more mindfulness to how we're spending our time in all areas of our lives.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from Kagan's book. It's not just about building a business. It's about building a life you truly love, a life that's aligned with your values and priorities.
I couldn't agree more. It's about designing a life that feels good on the inside and looks good on the outside. A life that's both successful and fulfilling. Okay, so we've covered launching a business, we talked about how to grow it, and we even got into designing a life you actually enjoy.
Yeah, it's been a pretty comprehensive deep dive so far.
It has. But what about the marketing piece? How do we get the word out about our amazing products or services? What does Kagan have to say about that?
He definitely has some thoughts on marketing, and it's
Okay.
actually pretty refreshing.
Okay, I'm all ears.
He's not into chasing the latest fads or anything like that.
No quick tricks or gimmicks.
No, not at all.
Hmm?
He's all about building something sustainable, something that lasts.
Playing the long game.
Exactly. And one of his core principles is this idea of experiment-based marketing.
Experiment-based marketing. Okay, I kind of like the sound of that. What's the gist?
Well, it starts with acknowledging that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to marketing, right?
Right. What works for one business might totally bomb for another.
Exactly. So instead of just blindly following some guru's advice, he says you got to treat marketing like a series of experiments.
So you're testing different things out, seeing what sticks.
You got it. Trying new things, tracking your results, and then adjusting based on what you learn.
That's a smart approach. Data-driven.
100%.
Huh.
You're taking the guesswork out of it. And to help you get started with experiment-based marketing, he has 5 key questions.
5 key questions. All right, hit me.
First one, what's your main goal for this year? Like the one thing you really want to achieve.
Okay, one goal. Got it. What's next?
Who's your ideal customer? And where can you find them?
So really understanding your target audience.
Yep. Then, what's that one marketing activity you can go all in on?
Focusing your energy where it matters most. Okay, I'm liking this. What are the last 2?
How can you wow your first 100 customers? Like, really knock their socks off.
Create some super fans right out of the gate. All right, and the 5th question.
This one's my favorite. If you had to double your business in 30 days and you couldn't spend any extra money,
What would you do? Ooh, that is a good one. It really makes you think creatively.
right, it forces you to get resourceful. And Kagan actually shares a story about Daniel Bliss, the guy with the climbing glasses.
Oh yeah, Daniel, with the built-in mirrors, how did he use this experiment-based marketing stuff?
Well, he and his business partner, they sat down and brainstormed a bunch of different marketing ideas. Then they estimated how many sales each strategy could bring in.
So it was very hypothesis-driven.
Totally. And they focused on the tactics that had the highest potential payoff. No wasting time on stuff that was unlikely to work.
Smart. So how'd it go? Any big breakthroughs?
But there were some big wins, for sure, but they also had their fair share of flops along the way.
Oh, I'm sure. What was one of the flops?
Well, they thought selling on eBay would be huge for them.
It seems like a logical assumption.
You'd think so, right? But it turned out to be a total dead end.
Wow. It just goes to show you never really know until you test it out.
That's the beauty of experimenting. And their biggest surprise, online wholesalers.
Really? They ended up being a major sales channel.
The biggest one. Way more successful than they ever imagined.
That's amazing. It's like they struck gold by just trying something new.
And the key takeaway is to stay flexible, track what's working, and be willing to shift gears if something isn't panning out.
I love that. Embrace the experimental mindset. Don't be afraid to pivot. Okay, so we talked about experimenting with different channels, but Kagan also singles out email marketing as being super important.
Oh yeah, he's a massive believer in the power of email.
He even says it's more valuable than having a ton of followers on social media, especially if you're thinking long term.
Which is how we should be thinking, right?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Sustainable growth, not just chasing quick wins. So, remind me again, why is email so special?
First off, you own your email list. Social media platforms. They can disappear or change the rules anytime they want.
Poof, and your audience is gone.
Exactly. With email, you're in control. It's a direct line to your people.
No algorithms deciding who sees your message.
You're not competing for attention in some crowded news feed. It's a more personal, more direct way to connect.
I'm starting to see the appeal. But email can also be kind of boring, can't it?
It can be, if you let it. But Kagan's all about injecting personality into your emails, making them fun and engaging.
Or like that boner email we talked about earlier.
Exactly. A little bit of humor goes a long way. And Kagan gives tons of examples of how to do email right, how to use it to build relationships, share valuable content, and ultimately drive sales.
So it's not about blasting out sales pitches all the time. It's about nurturing your audience, building trust, and adding value.
You got it. And when you do that, people actually look forward to hearing from you. They trust your recommendations.
They become loyal fans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what builds a sustainable business.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today, from launching a business to growing it, to marketing it, to even designing a life we love. It's been quite a deep dive.
We explored a lot of Kagan's key concepts, for sure. But I think the biggest takeaway, the most inspiring thing about his approach,
Yeah. What's that?
he doesn't just focus on the business side. He really wants you to create a life you're excited about, a life that's aligned with what matters most to you.
I love that. It's not just about the hustle. It's about finding that sweet spot where success and fulfillment meet.
Exactly. And he gives you a bunch of tools and strategies to do just that, like setting those dreamier goals, finding an accountability buddy, even just coloring your calendar. It's all about designing a life that feels good on the inside and the outside.
And that, my friends, is the essence of $1 million weekend and $1 million life. If you're ready to put all this amazing wisdom into action, be sure to head over to our website for some bonus goodies.
We've got templates, scripts, links to resources, and even that intro email template for reaching out to those pre-fluencers. So pick one of Kagan's techniques, the one that feels most powerful to you right now, and just get started. You got this.
That's right. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take action today and start building the business and the life of your dreams. Until next time, fellow deep divers.